Hi, welcome to Story Mode, the place where you'll find the stories you've been waiting for. Today, we're continuing the story, How I Became the Greatest Mage Ever. Chapter 7, Elements Showdown. In that very instant, the three examiners called out their results almost simultaneously. "All right, student, that's it. Your final grade is an A," the balding examiner announced expressionlessly. Olivia opened her eyes, her face alight with a mix of disbelief and elation. Really? Is it really an A? I got an A?" Although the sight of a young woman squealing ecstatically, "I got an A! I got an A!" was undeniably bizarre, everyone had to admit that Olivia's exam results had left them completely stunned. Holy crap, an A! That's the standard for getting into the elite class." I'm speechless. Before the exam, she was over there blubbering. We all thought she was on the verge of being expelled. But then the results came out and, damn it, she tricked everyone and walked away with an A. She's a magic faker, a textbook example of a magic studying fraud. I'm never trusting her again. When the results were announced, even Bryan was left completely dumbfounded. Their homeroom teacher, Mr. Martin's expression stiffened slightly. He had actually been completely tricked by a student of his. Acting worried but receiving an A grade awarded in the very first assessment, even though Mr. Martin was, on the whole, quite pleased. Every student's final score will be calculated and compared after all 30 class takes their exams. So every classes would be ranked against one another. Mr. Martin felt confident that his class stood a great chance to be placed in the top 3 class this year. Their rival was Class 7 next door, specifically because of that lightning element student Stephen Smith's. His performance might give Classroom 7 a huge boost. Mr. Martin could only hope that the most outstanding student in their class, Caleb, would prove every bit of his talent. "Next, do you wish to cast a spell?" the balding examiner asked Olivia. Olivia quickly shook her head. "I've only managed to control 6 stars so far." "Very well. We will determine your class placement based on the evaluations provided by your other subject teachers," the balding examiner stated. "Thank you, teacher." Olivia walked out beaming with delight. She initially intended to share the good news with her friends standing nearby, only to discover that, one by one, they had all edged away, keeping a full meter's distance from her. This left her utterly bewildered. "Surely I haven't done anything wrong. So why are they keeping their distances?" Completely unaware of what she did. "Next up, Avery Cross," the examiner called out. Avery couldn't help but freeze for a moment. He hadn't expected his turn to come around so quickly. "All right, Bryan, I'm going," Avery said to Bryan. Do your best and keep a calm, steady mind and stay confident," Bryan replied. "Oh, give it a rest with the coaching. Listening to you makes me want to puke." Unsurprisingly, Jack chimed in once again. Bryan was baffled. Was this Jack guy running in autofollow and global chat mode? It seemed that no matter where Bryan goes, this jerk would somehow manage to pop up just to ruin his mood. Avery glanced at Mr. Martin, then looked at their practical instructor, Ms. Youngs. "Give it your all. I believe in you." This time, it was the practical instructor, Ms. Youngs, who spoke. Avery nodded and walked over to the star-sensing stone. Closing his eyes, Avery regulated his breathing, slowly easing himself into a state of meditative cultivation. The star-sensing stone glowed with a shifting, dappled light, flickering between brightness and dimness in rhythm with Avery's breathing. It was evident that he was somewhat nervous, as the stone was unable to fully capture the energy of his star atlas. However, Avery gradually began settling into the proper state. Finally, the radiance stabilized. A green glow, characteristic of the wind element, enveloped the star-sensing stone. Its luminosity even surpassed that of Olivia, and aside from a faint trace of instability, the result was nearly flawless. A! A+! The 3 examiners appeared to be divided in their opinions. "Teachers, let me try one more time." Avery was clearly unsatisfied with this result, and once again he entered the meditative state. This time, he was far more composed. Intense light radiated densely around the star-sensing stone, clearly far more powerful than what Olivia had produced, and this time, there was no sign of the unstable flickering seen earlier. The three examiners exchanged glances and nodded in unison. A+, A+, A+. Final grade, A+. As soon as the result was announced, the entire class looked on with expressions of both astonishment and envy. Holy crap, an A+! That's a guaranteed ticket into the elite class. I never would have thought that guy's Avery Cross, that kid who usually seems so average, actually possessed such outstanding cultivation. I completely misjudged him. I really misjudged him. That's incredible. If I could get an A+, my dad would buy me a car on the spot. Mr. Martin and Ms. Youngs, the two instructors, also smiled and nodded, their eyes filled with evident approval. Avery had always been a student they held in high regard, so achieving such a result was entirely expected. The balding examiner was just about to announce the final grade. "Teacher, I would like to take the casting test," Avery interjected at that moment, his gaze firm despite the shy expression on his face. "Are you sure?" the examiner asked, sounding somewhat surprised. "I know that if one ranks high in the annual assessment, the duration for which one is granted a Stardust magic artifact is extended. Therefore, I wish to take the casting test," Avery stated with certainty. Mr. Martin and Ms. Young continued to smile. They had known all along that Avery had already reached the level of casting. The examination consisted of two parts. The first part was the Stardust test. For the vast majority of students, simply passing this stage was sufficient to allow them to continue their magical studies at the Magic High School. The second part, however, was designed specifically for elite students. Out of the more than 1,000 students taking the exam, only about 100 exceptional individuals had already touched upon the realm of casting. If one could fully unleash the skills of their discipline during the assessment, their annual evaluation score would naturally receive a significant boost. In order to secure a larger share of the school's limited resources, every student participating in this annual assessment would pull out all their ability and holding nothing back. Avery's casting assessment did not go particularly smoothly. Overcome by nerves, he ultimately failed to successfully link the 7 wind element star points into a complete star path. However, the examiners could tell that he was a student who had already mastered the casting technique, but had simply failed to execute it due to stage fright. Based on his overall performance, they decided to award him a few extra points. Stepping out of the examination area with a hint of disappointment, Avery kept his head bowed low. Their teacher, Ms. Youngs, acting like a gentle older sister, patted Avery on the shoulder and said, "Don't be discouraged. With your grades, you're practically guaranteed a spot in the elite class." "Teacher, I thought I had already mastered it quite proficiently. I never expected that just a little nervousness would cause the star points to scatter every time I tried to control them, forcing me to start all over again." "Teacher, how do you manage to cast magic completely just like you?" Avery asked. "Naturally, practice is essential. Beyond that, however, one's state of mind is equally crucial. A competent mage requires not only a solid foundation of skills, but more importantly, a mindset capable of remaining unperturbed in any situation." Avery nodded, appearing to grasp the concept only vaguely. Next up, B, A, C. A few more students had gone. "Teacher, I'm an A! I'm an A!" "Make another sound and your score will be revoked." Over in Class 8, students were undergoing their assessments one after another. The majority were receiving grades of B or C, while the number of A grades appeared to be quite scarce. Look! Look! The school administrators are almost done with their rounds and are heading this way. They're over at the Class 7 testing area. The one being tested right now is that guy from the Lightning Element faction. Stephen Smith's. He's practically one step away from the top spot in the entire school. Not true. I heard that Caleb's cultivation level is pretty high too. Hearing his classmates chatter, Bryan cast his gaze toward the Class 7 testing area. Sure enough, that small group of school administrators, along with the strikingly exceptional Ashley Luna, had already made their way into the immediate vicinity. Sir Aaron, this is one of our school's most exemplary students, a practitioner of the lightning element named Stephen Smiths. Ever since he awakened his lightning element a year ago, I, as the principal, have kept a particularly close watch on him. He is currently undergoing the assessment for the casting phase. Would you care to take a look? The principal of Skybird High said to Aaron Luna. The fact that even the principal treated the head of the Luna family with such deference served as clear proof of just how high Aaron Luna stand within Moon City. Aaron nodded. The lightning element, the foremost among the elemental schools of magic, possesses a volatile, destructive power potent enough to make other mages recoil in fear. Inside the testing arena, Stephen, clad in his school uniform, stood poised and ready. He steadied his breathing, working to compose himself under the immense pressure of being watched by all the students and the teachers of the entire school. Ever since his enrollment, he had been the focal point of the entire school. Those countless gazes served as a constant spur, driving him to train with unceasing diligence. Hear my command! Lightning element, lightning seal! As the words left his lips, his hand shot upward. Arcs of violet electricity surged forth violently, like a legion of colossal pythons summoned by their serpent king, writhing their terrifying forms and superheating the air around them. Unleash! The arcs of electricity rained down in a frenzied torrent, slamming mercilessly into the humanoid dummy. The dummy shuddered violently. Beneath the relentless onslaught of the lightning seal, it turned pitch black and charred. Electricity crackled wildly, and the lightning strikes lashed down like whips, instantly blasting the humanoid dummy into an unrecognizable wreck. Across the ground of the training arena, deep black furrows were gouged out, a truly gruesome sight. The battered and ravaged dummy had been reduced to nothing more than a heap of charred debris. This domineering lightning element skill instantly seized the attention of everyone in the area, causing even the elite students, those capable of casting skills themselves, to gasp in astonishment. Good heavens! Forget about wind track, water domain, or fire burn. Compared to this, they're all utterly pathetic. The sheer, unbridled dominance of this lightning seal is simply beyond compare to any other element. It actually blasted a humanoid dummy into absolute dust. The destructive power. If a real person had been standing there, they would have been instantly vaporized. Upon seeing the result, a look of satisfaction spread across Stephen's face. Turning around, waiting for the examiner to deliver the grades, he suddenly found his gaze locking with a pair of eyes as bright and pure as snow. It was Ashley Luna. Stephen's face lit up with delighted surprise. He had never imagined that his examination performance would actually capture Ashley's attention. She must be quite astonished, he thought. After all, the sheer power of the lightning element was simply incomparable to any other. Ashley, what do you think? Eric, one of the school board members, asked with a beaming smile. Mediocre. Ashley didn't spare it a second glance. Instead, she chose to continue her way. The principal and the other school administrators froze, their expressions stiffening instantly. Surely not. She considers a lightning element user this powerful to be merely mediocre? Just how high are this young girl's standards? Heh, actually, he's quite good. You see, Ashley studies at the Imperial Capital Academy, a place where the nation's most gifted mages gather. Casting a basic-level lightning seal is merely fundamental groundwork for them. The only reason she finds it mediocre is that she's accustomed to judging everything by the standards of the Imperial Capital Academy, Aaron explained with a smile. In that case, does that mean Stephen actually stands a good chance of getting into the Imperial Capital Academy? The principal, being a man who knew how to take a hint, seized the opportunity to ask. The others immediately chimed in, basking in their own self-satisfaction. Barring any surprises, Stephen will likely take the top spot in the entire school, remarked Mr. Aoki, the teacher of Classroom 7. That's hard to say. From what I hear, Caleb from Class 8 is certainly a worthy contender, the vice principal interjected. Hearing this exchange, a smile spread across Eric's face. He immediately turned to Aaron and Ashley and said, "Brother, Caleb is a member of our Luna clan, and his academic performance has always been outstanding. By my reckoning, his turn should be coming up soon over there. Why don't we go over and take a look?" "Caleb? Which branch of the family is he from?" "He is Charlie Luna's son. You remember Charlie, don't you? She passed away some time ago. I saw that his wife and son were being treated like street dogs elsewhere, so I brought them here to live in the manor. Caleb is a very sensible and promising young man. He certainly doesn't fall short compared to the other children in our clan. Of course, there is still a significant gap between him and Ashley, but he is nonetheless a fine prospect worthy of cultivation." Eric spoke to Aaron with careful deference. Full authority over the estate lay entirely in Aaron's hands. Although Eric Luna held the title of Master, he was effectively no more than a third or fourth in command, simply incomparable to Aaron Luna. "Oh, I do recall the name. Very well, let's go take a look." "What do the board members think?" Aaron asked. The board member with the center-parted, yellowish hair spoke up. "Since the student in question is a scion of your Luna clan, we are certainly quite interested." The group began to move, slowly making their way toward the examination venue for Class 8. This entourage exuded a powerful aura. While the estate's leadership might have seemed like distant, ethereal figures in the eyes of the students, the presence of a pure genius like Ashley served as a jolt of pure adrenaline, a truly invigorating sight for them. Out on the sports field, the moment the boys spotted girls watching from the sidelines, they instantly became as pumped up as if they had been injected with pure adrenaline. And all the more so, given that the girl we're talking about is the beautiful princess every student in the entire school dreamed of. "Oh my God, they're coming this way! They're actually here! My hands are shaking!" "Perfect timing. This is my chance to shine." "Shine? What are you talking about? Your assessment is already over. You only got a C scrub." The students of Class 8 instantly lost their composure. Everyone's fate hinged on this annual assessment, and now the school principal and leader of the city was walking right toward them. The atmosphere of the examination hall suddenly grew incredibly tense. Eric was walking at the very front. The balding examiner immediately looked up and met his gaze. At a mere hint from Eric, the balding examiner immediately caught on. Feigning ignorance, as if he had seen nothing at all, he announced in a flat, indifferent tone, "Next, Caleb Luna." Caleb's eyes remained fixed on Ashley. Even though they lived under the same roof, within the same castle, the estate was so vast that Caleb barely get the chance to stand this close to her. "Caleb, it's your turn." Eric gave a light cough, nudging Caleb back to reality. Only then did Caleb snap back to reality. It couldn't be helped. He had wanted to prove to Ashley for far too long. Even though he knew, deep down, that the chance of being approved by a genius like her was very unlikely. He absolutely could not tolerate the thought that she approved a trash like Bryan. The time had come to prove that his years of hard work had not been a waste. Caleb nodded and strode toward the examination arena. He had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Taking a deep breath, Caleb steeled himself. To earn his clan's recognition and to capture Ashley's attention, these were the things Caleb had dreamed of night after night. Today, both of those dreams would finally come true. Placing his hand upon the sensing stone, Caleb suppressed the excitement surging within him, striving to perform to the absolute best of his ability. Caleb had indeed undergone extensive training in this specific area. Thus, even though his inner state at that moment was arguably more agitated and nervous than anyone else's, his sheer proficiency allowed him to execute a flawless session of meditative cultivation. A brilliant white radiance, resembling shards of ice, swiftly radiated outward from the star-sensing stone, completely enveloping the crystal in a dense, shimmering aura. The intensity of this icy glow was extraordinary. It seemed on the verge of overflowing from the stone itself, casting its luminous reflection directly onto Caleb's face. The entire class, both students and instructors alike, watched in spellbound fascination. Such an outward effusion of light, this was likely a phenomenon they were witnessing for the very first time across the countless assessments they had observed. Even Sophie, who had achieved an A++ rating, paled in comparison to the sheer brilliance of Caleb's overflowing radiance. S. 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 The three examiners issued their scores instantly, and astonishingly, every single one of them was an S. I recall that lighting awakening student Stephen Smith's, who went just before him, received 2 S's and 1 A, didn't he? In that case, it seems Caleb has indeed surpassed Stephen in terms of stardust cultivation. Eric immediately remarked. Mr. Martin, too, was left somewhat dumbfounded by what he saw. Had Caleb been hiding his true strength all along? He truly lived up to his status as a scion of a prominent clan. Mr. Martin had assumed that Caleb, at best, could possibly manage to secure a single S score. Never in his wildest dreams did he imagine he would achieve 3 S score. His final overall grade was an S. This was unequivocally the absolute pinnacle of achievement within the entire school. There was simply no room for doubt. Holy crap! Caleb is absolutely insane. He actually pulled off 3 S. That score completely leaves Stephen from Class 7 in the dust. He is the undisputed #1. I really never expected this. I truly never expected this. Caleb, you are a total legend! By now, several of the girls were practically swooning with infatuation. Caleb was not only handsome, but also possessed academic prowess that stood head and shoulders above the rest. He was, quite simply, the quintessential prince of their dream. Brother, what do you think? Eric smiled as he asked Aaron, who stood beside him. Not bad, Aaron offered only a brief comment. Ashley, however, remained silent. Seeing that Ashley remained unmoved, Caleb realized that, in the eyes of a genius like her, 3 S score is nothing. The casting phase that followed was the moment to truly showcase his abilities. Turning around, Caleb stepped into the testing arena. Caleb is casting! Of course, he's definitely already established control over all 7 starseeds. I can't wait to see his ice element skills. Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, Caleb fixed his gaze, firm and resolute, upon the humanoid wooden dummy. Indeed, the Stardust test was merely a baseline. Anyone with even a shred of insight knew that the casting phase was the true measure of one's ability. I will make the clan leader and Ashley look at me in a whole new way. Closing his eyes, he entered the preparatory stance for casting. With flawless proficiency, Caleb linked the 7 ice element starseeds together to form a complete star path. Ice spread! Without a moment's pause or the slightest interruption, Caleb executed the spell in a single, fluid motion, fully demonstrating the fruits of his hard training. His pupils shifted in color. The instant he exhaled his magical breath, the humanoid wooden dummy before him was suddenly overrun by a creeping layer of white frost. The frost spread with astonishing speed, encasing the entire dummy as if it had been coated in a layer of icy paint. A truly spectacular sight. An intense chill radiated outward, permeating the entire examination hall. Creak, creak, creak. The ice spread did not cease once it had fully enveloped the dummy. Instead, it began to extend across the very floor of the examination hall. Students from other classes had also attempted the ice spread skill during their own assessments, yet their renditions clearly lacked the sheer, overwhelming power displayed by Caleb's. Terrified, the students recoiled, fearing that the spreading ice would soon reach their seat. The school administrators and examiners, however, remained remarkably composed. A flicker of approval flashed in their eyes. This was a relatively mature execution of the ice spread skill, one that would pass tests even within the Mage Association. Considering that the Mage Association is designed for adults, it was truly a rare feat for a student who had awakened their powers only a year prior to execute such a sophisticated ice element skill. Not bad, Aaron remarked once again. Caleb wasn't sure if he had managed to catch Aaron's attention. Feeling a flutter of anxiety, he turned his gaze toward Ashley. But upon doing so, Caleb felt as if he had been hit by a lightning. Ashley wasn't looking at him in the slightest. Instead, her eyes were fixed upon someone else within the classroom. Caleb followed her line of sight, and his heart was struck by another lighting. Bryan! She was looking at Bryan! That bastard! That absolute bastard! Why was she looking at him again? What was there to look at in a guy who ought to be buried in a garbage heap? My spellcasting was so brilliant. Why wouldn't she look at me? Caleb's entire face twisted in rage. At the most pivotal moment of his life, the moment he most craved the approval of Ashley Luna, she still chose to look toward that little punk instead. That punk was nothing more than a clown meant to amuse the princess. What was so fascinating about a clown? Once the laugh was had, that should have been the end of it. Why waste your precious gaze on him any longer? I will make you suffer a truly gruesome death. Caleb's expression turned utterly grim as he descended from the examination stage, seething with intense resentment. Outstanding results. Stardust rating of S, casting rating of B, the examiner announced, delivering the final score. In terms of casting, even the top-tier students typically managed no higher than a C or D rating. The only other person to achieve a B rating was Stephen Smith, the lightning element user. With this score, he was the undisputed, the top student in the entire school. Next up, Bryan Lambert. Just as the crowd was still marveling at Caleb's spectacular performance, it was finally Bryan's turn. Bryan found the timing rather odd. Why me? Why am I up right after Caleb? This has to be a setup, doesn't it? Bryan certainly didn't believe in such coincidences existing in this world. Still, it didn't matter. Well, if you want me to embarrass him this soon, not even giving him any time to enjoy his time of glory, I guess I'll have too. Bryan, that name sounds somewhat familiar, Aaron marked slowly at that moment. Brother, he is the son of driver named Lambert, Eric interjected, offering a timely reminder to Aaron. Ashley, whose gaze had remained as cold and unyielding as ice and snow, shifted her eyes ever so slightly. In truth, she had recognized Bryan long ago. She was merely puzzled as to why, the very moment she arrived, the test currently underway happened to be Caleb and Bryan. Aaron cast a glance at Ashley, who stood beside him. Ashley quickly regained her customary composure. She regarded the scene with the same detachment she had shown toward the other ordinary students earlier, utterly devoid of any emotional fluctuation. A flicker of satisfaction appeared in Aaron's eyes. Children, after all, inevitably go through phases of immaturity and rebellion. Once they grow up, they shed that childishness. Let's watch. He is, or at least was, considered one of our Luna family member, Aaron said. Aaron knew full well that the son of a mere driver was unlikely to possess any remarkable talent. Yet, he felt it was perhaps for the best that Ashley witnessed this herself. People like this, the sort of ones you could find a handful in a small city like Moon, were destined to fade from their world sooner or later. He certainly did not want a boy like that leaving any lasting emotional scars upon his cherished daughter. Meanwhile, Bryan paid no mind to the drivel those people were spouting. He had already walked over to the star-sensing stone and, just like everyone else, placed his hand upon it. Actually, I'm really grateful he's here. He helps me keep my seat firmly secured at the very bottom of the class rankings. Otherwise, I'd be the one in deep trouble, remarked one of the academic slackers. Bryan closed his eye and began his test. The light seems really faint. Upon the star-sensing stone, the radiance was incredibly timid, unable to break through and emanate from the stone's interior. Yet, the light within clearly possessed a potent breakthrough quality. It seemed as though it should have been dazzlingly brilliant, yet for some reason, it simply could not be unleashed. D, F, D.